This is a story of a place that I now call home. It's a story of public education and of rural communities and of what design might do to improve both. So this is Bertie County, North Carolina, USA. To give you an idea of the where, so here's North Carolina, and if we zoom in, Bertie County is in the eastern part of the state. It's about 2 hours east driving time from Raleigh, and it's very flat, it's very swampy, it's mostly farmland. The entire county is home to just 20,000 people, and they're very sparsely distributed. So there's only 27 people per square mile, which comes down to about 10 people per square kilometer. Bertie County is kind of a prime example in the demise of rural America. We've seen this story all over the country and even in places beyond the American borders. We know the symptoms. It's the hollowing out of small towns. It's downtowns becoming ghost towns. The brain drain, where all of the most educated and qualified leave and never come back. It's the dependence on farm subsidies and underperforming schools and higher poverty rates in rural areas than in urban. And Bertie County is no exception to this. Perhaps the biggest thing that it struggles with, like many communities similar to it, is that there's no shared collective investment in the future of rural communities. Only 6.8% of all our philanthropic giving in the US right now benefits rural communities, and yet 20% of our population lives there. So Bertie County is not only very rural, it's incredibly poor. It is the poorest county in the state. It has 1 in 3 of its children living in poverty, and it's what is referred to as a rural ghetto. The economy is mostly agricultural. The biggest crops are cotton and tobacco, and we're very proud of our Bertie County peanut. The biggest employer is the Perdue chicken processing plant. The county seat is Windsor. This is like the Times Square of Windsor that you're looking at right now. It's home to only 2,000 people, and like a lot of other small towns, it has been hollowed out over the years. There are more buildings that are empty or in disrepair than occupied and in use. You can count the number of restaurants in the county on one hand, Buns Barbecue being my absolute favorite. But in the whole county, there's no coffee shop, there's no internet cafe, there's no movie theater, there's no bookstore, there isn't even a Walmart. Racially, the county is about 60% African American, but what happens in the public schools is most of the privileged white kids go to the private Lawrence Academy. So the public schools students are about 86% African American, and this is a spread from the local newspaper of the recent graduating class, and you can see the difference is pretty stark. So to say that the public education system in Bertie County is struggling would be a huge understatement. There's basically no pool of qualified teachers to pull from, and only 8% of the people in the county have a bachelor's degree or higher, so there isn't a big legacy in the pride of education. In fact, 2 years ago, only 27% of all the 3rd through 8th graders were passing the state standard in both English and math. So it sounds like I'm painting a really bleak picture of this place, but I promise there is good news. The biggest asset, in my opinion, one of the biggest assets in Bertie County right now is this man. This is Dr. Chip Zollinger, fondly known as Dr. Z. He was brought in October 2007 as the new superintendent to basically fix this broken school system. And he previously was a superintendent in Charleston, South Carolina, and then in Denver, Colorado. He started some of the country's first charter schools in the late 80s in the US. And he is an absolute renegade and a visionary, and he is the reason that I now live and work there. So in February 2009, Dr. Zollinger invited us, Project H Design, which is a nonprofit design firm that I founded, to come to Bertie and to partner with him on the repair of this school district and to bring a design perspective to the repair of the school district. And he invited us in particular because we have a very specific type of design process, one that results in appropriate design solutions in places that don't usually have access to design services or creative capital. Specifically, we use these 6 design directives, probably the most important being number 2, we design with, not for, in that when we're doing humanitarian-focused design, it's not about designing for clients anymore, it's about designing with people and letting appropriate solutions emerge from within. So at the time of being invited down there, we were based in San Francisco, and so we were going back and forth for basically the rest of 2009, spending about half our time in Bertie County. And when I say we, I mean Project H, but more specifically, I mean myself and my partner, Matthew Miller, who's an architect and a sort of MacGyver-type builder. So fast forward to today, and we now live there. I have strategically cut Matt's head out of this photo because he would kill me if he knew I was using it because of the sweatsuits. But this is our front porch. We live there. We now call this place home. Over the course of this year that we spent flying back and forth, we realized we had fallen in love with the place. We had fallen in love with the place and the people.